Welcome back to Touchline Tuesday here at Pints and Punditry. We had another awesome week of European football, match week 2 and 3, depending on which league you follow, and we follow all of them, so we're going to dive in to a whole bunch of different topics. Before we do, if you don't already subscribe to the channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button for me. Follow us on Twitter at TotalFIFACM, like the video, and of course, get in that comment section, tell me what we're missing, tell me what you like, tell me what I'm wrong about. I don't care, I just want to get the discussion going. Now, before we get into all this week's new topics, I want to look back at some of the topics we talked about last week, because a lot of these discussions are really still relevant and ongoing. So what did we talk about last week? Well, we talked about Jude Bellingham being off to an amazing start. Check. We talked about Brighton having faced a lot of weak competition and how are they going to fare against better competition. Check. We talked about Tottenham finally having an identity and playing really good ball under Ange Postecoglou. Check. And we talked about Christian Pulisic getting off to a hot start and made a prediction that he could end up with double digits in goals and assists this year at AC Milan. Check. Now, the one we talked about, Phil Foden, and how much he was going to be able to replace Kevin De Bruyne and how good Manchester City was going to be with his presence, that one didn't really come to fruition this week. Apparently, he was out with some sort of stomach bug. He came in at the end and really helped get them the second goal that they needed. I thought their play stagnated without him. If you look at the XG, and a lot of Man City fans were saying that was too critical, that there was creative play before he got in there. I really don't think it's the case. I think they struggled against a defense that really packed the box, and he really, changed the energy once he got in there. So I stand by that statement, but we didn't really get to see it come to fruition. But these other ones really did. Bellingham had another great game, and they're going to need him even more now with Vinicius Jr. out for a month. Brighton really struggled against decent competition for the first time. I mean, listen, Brighton is going to be fine. Brighton fans, don't worry. But we did have to temper our excitement after beating Luton Town and Wolves, and they finally faced some real competition and they got stomped. So we have to temper the excitement for Brighton. They're going to be just fine, but let's keep it in perspective. Tottenham still looks great. Ange ball, I'm all in on that. They look fantastic. And of course, Pulisic was amazing again. I'd like to see some assists start to come if I'm going to be right on my double-double prediction, but he's been absolutely fantastic. AC Milan looks like a juggernaut right now. They need to play some competition too, but they appear to be off and running. So some of these storylines really do carry over from week to week, and we're seeing the stories continue to develop as the season goes, so we're going to keep checking in on some of those. The first topic I want to talk about today is Fulham and their 2-2 draw against Arsenal, and that may seem like a bit of a strange topic to lead with, but I like to talk about some of the more outside-the-box things. Anybody can talk about Liverpool's great comeback. I want to look at what Fulham's doing. Now, a 2-2 draw against Arsenal seems like a win, but not when you're up 2-0 early. But they should be really happy that they got the points after fending off a really aggressive comeback by the Gunners. So this is a definite win for them. No moral victories, but they'll take a point against Arsenal any day. But what I want to talk about is their mentality from roster building standpoint and the importance of João Paulinho. He was very sought after this offseason by a lot of clubs, and they put a massive price on his head, like 90 million euros or something ridiculous like that. Probably not because they necessarily thought he was worth that, but because to them he was, and because they didn't really want to sell him. And if you followed this channel, you've seen that I've been a big advocate of not bullying the smaller clubs or the poorer clubs into selling the player when the big clubs want to, and selling him instead on their terms. And I argued this with Moises Caicedo in Brighton when there was a lot of pressure to sell him during the January transfer window, and a lot of pundits were saying, oh, their price tag's too high and they should be selling him to Arsenal. Well, you know what? They held off. He helped them to a great finish last year, and then they got even more money for him this summer. And Fulham's probably looking at the same thing with João Paulinho, but for right now, it is crucial that they did not sell him, because he's going to be the reason they're able to stay up this year if they're able to pull it off again. Mitrovic is gone. He was huge for their avoiding relegation last year. He finally proved that he could score goals at the Premier League level after struggling with their other couple of promotions, and he was a huge reason. A lot of times with these fringy relegation teams, the ability to put the ball in the back of the net or not is the difference maker. And so having a proven goal scorer like Mitrovic is huge in terms of keeping up. Well, now he's gone. He's over in Saudi Arabia, and so now they've replaced him with Raul Jimenez, which is a step down. Jimenez is a longtime Premier League striker, but not a particularly great one. And so that is a massive step down. A game like yesterday, they were without Tim Ream, who was suspended. He's been a key cog of their defense. So they're going to need a player like Paulinho. And if they had been forced to sell him, or if they had caved to the outside pressure in the summer, in the transfer window, when there were all these big clubs coming after him, then they would be in real trouble. And yes, they would have taken his money and filled in the gaps a little bit, but you only get so many chances. When you're a team like Fulham, you only get so many chances at truly high-end elite talent, and you only get so many years to keep them. Just ask Brighton. And so you really need to make the most of them, and the fact that they're going to get an extra year out of him could easily make the difference between relegation and not, and getting another year in the Premier League. So he was fantastic in this game against Arsenal. He played a key role in helping them maintain the onslaught that came in after the fact, after they scored and Arsenal really came after him, and he's going to be the difference maker for them. So kudos on Fulham for holding on to him, and it's already paying dividends with a point that they definitely did not expect to get. So now I want to switch gears over to the Bundesliga, which after 2 match weeks is of course wide open because it's very early, but there are 5 teams sitting with the full complement of points right now at 6 points at the top of the table. Of course, Bayern Munich is one of them, but you know who's not one of them? Borussia Dortmund and RB Leipzig, 2 clubs that are typically up in the discussion with the best clubs in the league. And so it's really wide open for, 1, whoever's playing for second place, if that's how you want to look at it, but 2, is this the year that Bayern can finally be challenged? And you never know, because they have not had the same squad and the same depth and the same sort of talent level that they've had in the past, but Harry Kane is going to be a massive difference maker for them, and he already scored a couple goals, and so it is looking like they are going to once again run the table in the Bundesliga, but it is wide open for spots 2, 3, and 4 in that league. My early money for the second best team in the Bundesliga is Bayer Leverkusen, who had 2 really tough tasks ahead of them in week 1 and 2. They faced RB Leipzig in week 1, came away victorious, and then they faced Borussia Mönchengladbach, which had a good season last year, in week 2, and they've come away with their full complement of points. So this is a really good team, a talented team with a lot of young talent. Florian Wirtz, Jermaine Frimpong, you've got Adam Holozic coming off the bench. You've got Ezekiel Palacios in midfield. Granit Xhaka, he's not a young player, but he's a good addition for them. This is a good quality club with a really good coach in Xabi Alonso. And so they're going to be there the entire year. And I think they're going to be the team that gives Bayern Munich a run for their money this year. Will they come up short? Probably in the end. But I think that's who's going to give Bayern a run for the Bundesliga title this year and probably end up in that second spot. Borussia Dortmund is down. They gave up a couple points so far in their first 2 matches, and they really just have not replaced the talent level that has exited over the past few years between Jude Bellingham this year, Erling Haaland, Jadon Sancho. They really have not replaced this elite level talent, and that's always been their MO, is yes, they sell these guys off, but they've got the next man up and this young elite talent, and they just haven't been able to do it over the past few years, and it's starting to show, which is a real shame. So maybe a changing of the guard for that second tier of Bundesliga teams. Who knows? It's still very early, but Bayer Leverkusen is a club to watch. They have been exciting, and they put together another really nice game this past week. Next up, I want to venture over to Belgium, and I try to focus on at least one league each week that is not among the mainstream leagues. So this week we're going to talk about Belgium and the fact that Anderlecht is at the top of the table after match week 5. Now the Belgian league is ahead. They're 5 weeks in already, and I want to talk about this because there's a little bit of smoke and mirrors going on here with Anderlecht. Now they're a very good team, but they've gotten by the skin of their teeth thus far. Now first of all, they're 2 points ahead of Club Brugge in the table. Club Brugge had their game postponed this weekend, so they have a game in hand. A win would put them at the top of the table, so let's note that first off. But Club Brugge has also dominated their opposition, whereas Anderlecht has gotten by the skin of their teeth. They had a loss to USG in their first game, and then they've won 1-0, 1-0, 2-1, and 2-1 thus far. So they are at the top of the table, but with a small goal differential, and you have to think it's probably not going to last. Club Brugge is the class of the Belgian league right now, but Anderlecht is a good squad, and Vincent Kompany's lasting effect with them is still showing. And even though he's moved on to Burnley, and they're always a club with a lot of young talent, they've actually underachieved a lot over the years, but that's a club with a long history, so it's good to see them off to a good start. But you do have to wonder if they don't score a few more goals, how long they're going to be able to fend off Club Brugge. So always an interesting league, the Belgian league. They are a couple weeks ahead, but always a lot of good talent, a lot of good young players. It's a great league to do some Wonder Kid watching, and we're going to do some videos for our Soccer Wonder Kids part of the channel that focuses on some players in the Belgian league as we go, so keep an eye out for that. But definitely a table to watch because there's 2 or 3 good teams at the top that are always duking it out for first place. The last topic I want to talk about is the one that everybody wanted to talk about this week, and I can't do a video like this recapping a week in European football without talking about Liverpool and the Virgil van Dijk red card and everything that went on in their match against Newcastle. Now, first of all, Newcastle has had a tough run early in the season with Manchester City and then Liverpool early on in their schedule, and I'm going to talk about that in another video this week. But Liverpool, credit to them, after losing a man early in the game, to come back and win that game down a man. That really is a testament to them, to Jurgen Klopp, to the way he changed tactics, and not against a slouch of an opponent. Newcastle's good. Don't let 2 losses in 3 games discount you on Newcastle. They are a good team. They're going to be just fine. They had a bad luck of the draw on the early schedule, but it's interesting to talk about Liverpool. First of all, Virgil van Dijk is showing the signs of age, and he's not alone. Joel Matip's old. They've got an old defense, and it's showing, and they need to address that. And we're running out of time in the transfer window. It's probably not being addressed this summer. I still think they need another upgrade at the 6 in the defensive midfield. They have not done enough. It's nice to get McAllister out of that position, but they have not done enough, and they need more. And they're running out of time to do it. I think Ryan Gravenberch would be a great option there, but he's being linked more with Manchester United than with Liverpool. So they're running out of time to upgrade this roster, and despite the ridiculous amount of attacking talent that they have, they're lacking on the back half of the field. And I think they've just relied on Virgil van Dijk for a long time, and rightly so, because he was the best defender in the world, and he was good enough to get away with that, and good enough to play next to a guy like Trent Alexander-Arnold, who's a phenomenal player, but a bad defender. Let's just call it what it is. He's a bad defender. He should be playing as a wing or a midfielder more. And so they've been able to make up for that, but he can't do it anymore. And a couple of years ago, Virgil van Dijk probably gets to the ball cleanly and doesn't have to go through the back of Alexander Isak and doesn't get that red card. But he's lost just enough of a step after injuries and age, and he just can't get there anymore. Let's talk about the penalty. Was it a penalty? Was it not a penalty? How was it handled by the refs? I mean, my personal opinion is probably yes, it was a penalty. But I don't really care about that. And yes, it was a foul without a doubt. Should have been a red card is really the discussion. Should it have been a straight red? And unfortunately, there is a lot of subjectivity to that. And there have been worse fouls that weren't a direct red, and there have been less fouls that were. And that's the big problem with officiating, not just in the Premier League, but throughout Europe, is the inconsistency. Premier League officiating is not good. It is not up to the level of play, and the biggest problem is the lack of consistency. What I don't want to hear is, oh, they're out to get my team. No, they're not, Liverpool fans. No, they're not fans of any other team. This is not just a Liverpool problem. This is a fan problem. The officials are not out to get your club. That's not how it works. The league is not fixing things against your club, particularly if you're one of the big clubs. Do we really think that the league doesn't do better when Liverpool does well? Why would the league be out to get Liverpool? You're one of the biggest clubs in Europe. If there's ever any match fixing going on from the league or the officials, it would be to the benefit of big teams because they're going to get better ratings and the league is better when they win. So don't ever cry this, oh, the officials are out to get me, things are fixed. You sound like an uneducated fan when you do that. You're just not right. It's just not true. Now, was it handled improperly? Sure. You want to have that discussion? I'll listen to you because you have a valid argument. And it's the inconsistency that is the problem with officiating in the Premier League and also throughout Europe. Things are handled differently every time. There's a different standard for every foul. VAR is not carried out the same way, and it is not executed properly. It's so blatant that it is affected by the original call on the field and not just getting the call right. And therein lies the problem. But don't start with this, oh, the game is fixed, or the officials are out to get us, or they just don't like us because they're Liverpool. No, you don't get screwed any more or any less than any other club. They all get screwed at some point. There are too many bad calls to go around, and that's the problem. Those are the topics I wanted to discuss this week. What do you want to talk about? Did I miss anything? Get down in that comment section and let me know. What about the stuff we did talk about? Was I right? Was I wrong? Am I off the mark? I want to hear what your thoughts are. Also, follow us on Twitter at TotalFIFACM. We can keep the conversation going there. And of course, if you don't subscribe to the channel yet, hit that subscribe button for me down below so you can follow all the videos that are coming this week. Thanks as always for joining us here on Pints and Punditry. This is Total FIFA Career Mode.